أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear viewers and everybody who's present live. Inshallah, today we will be discussing the topic of modernism, liberalism, and the effects of these ideologies on the Islamic society. These ideologies have impacted the Muslim world heavily, and we can see it being very widespread in terms of following. Liberal ideas are sometimes taken as the norm by many Muslim nations and societies, and we can see disregard and a preference for these modernist and liberal ideals over Islamic ideals due to the imposition of them by the West. Inshallah, we will be discussing how they came into existence first, their propagation into the Muslim world. So yeah, the speakers are me, Abdullah, Azzam, as always, and Mehmed as well, my friend. Yeah. All right, so let's begin with the propagation of these new ideals into the Muslim world.
Bro, let's not forget.
So this is,
Let's not forget this. Let's Eid al-Mubarak to all of you. Let's just
Oh
say
yes,
that.
of course. Yes, Eid Mubarak, Eid al-Adha is today. It was yesterday actually, but we didn't make a video yesterday. This is actually like we're doing this again because the first lecture we did on the same topic, the audio file got corrupted. Anyways, yeah, so Eid Mubarak. I hope you and your families had a great Eid, and inshallah, Allah will shower blessings on you and your families, close all doors of evil, and open all doors of goodness.
Yeah, Amen.
All right. So let's begin. First, we begin with the beginnings of all these ideals. They actually have a universal beginning, the same as nationalism, the one we discussed earlier. And you should be able to see that video pop up above in the screen. So yes, these ideals, they were created in Europe, and they were a part of the new, the revolutionary era, one can call it, like when new ideals were starting to be created. Now, Mehmed can help us go over revolutionary France and the creation of liberalism later on in the discussion, inshallah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we start off by saying all these ideals, they have the same source, and they basically came as part of a single package to the Muslim world. And the delivery man, as always, was colonialism and imperialism, and the imposition of European ideals on colonized nations. Now, one may say that liberalism is a fairly new phenomenon, but liberalism has always been there since the revolutionary era, but it has only changed in terms of laws. And that in itself points to an inconsistency. Any law that changes, it says, it means that the law has been imperfect, and it is still imperfect. That already tells a lot about liberalism and modernism. So yeah, these all were imported to the Islamic world through colonialism and imperialistic ideas, and also Muslim students and Muslim people who went to Europe and they were fascinated by the ideas they saw. The development they saw, all the technological advancements. They thought this was as a result of European ideals and their ideologies, but they were gravely mistaken. And Mehmed can tell us what was actually the cause for Europe's rise to power.
Europe got a lot of its powers from basically its geography and a little bit of luck. They were really lucky because they were in a position that made them available to colonize the New World. As you know, they were direct connection with the Atlantic Sea, and it's very much easy for them to colonize these people. Also, European lands are really good for farming, and farming is really good for starting big cities, and big cities lead to industrialization, and that leads to technological advancement, as we all know. So Europe's ideology had almost nothing to do with their development. You can say development came from nationalism as well, but that's another story. Basically, people were rivaling each other, as we can say, and tried to one-up each other. That's another reason they were getting powerful, because there were a lot of wars, and everyone wanted to be more powerful than each other. Because if they weren't powerful, they would be eliminated, as you know, natural selection, we can say.
Yeah. So, and also we mustn't forget the riches they received from the colonies. For example, in India, there have been it has been recorded of the number of riches that have been taken from India to enrichen the colonial powers, and basically every other colony as part of that. So yeah, these ideals came as part of existential crisis of sorts for these colonial peoples. They wanted to become as powerful as their colonial masters. They wanted to overpower them. So the mistake they made, well, we can't blame them for making it. Is they thought the uh, influence of European ideals throughout the Islamic world and actually modernism. Now let's just take a quick look at modernism's definition so we can go ahead and start discussing about it in depth. So modernism is a modern noun that describes modern character or quality of thought, expression, or technique. Now, within the definition itself, you can see a very biased approach. It is actually using the noun modern, which can be very flexible and applying to anything, but they are applying it to a specific set of laws which they labeled as modern. That is, if you ask me, a kind of brutal imposition.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that, Mehmed?
Basically, what they define as modern is simply undefinable when you think about it. Because
Yeah.
if you put it like that, Saudi Arabia is modern as well, in their own
Mm-hmm.
terms, of course. Because
Yeah.
there is no way of not being modern, because everyone lives in the now, and living in the now basically means being modern. But their ideal modernist
Mm-hmm.
society is one of European society, not of any other cultures. They define
Yep.
Europeanism as modernism, which is a big mistake, but
Precisely.
and that's where the problem begins. Being modern doesn't have
Mm-hmm.
anything to do with being European or having European ideals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's the big game they played, the Europeans. When they created this label, the modernists, when they created this label, they restricted the term modern to a specific group of people that follow a specific set of laws. And it doesn't matter whether they follow an imperfect set of laws or if they follow a perfect set of laws. If they don't follow that specific set of laws, they are not modern and they are seen as primitive or backward, as these are the staple words that you can see used by the modernists to describe the Sharia, for example, or basically any other system of law that doesn't conform to their interpretation of morality. So, yeah, we discussed the propagation of modernism through colonialism and all of this admiration for European ideals that still exists today in this world. Even though many might not admit it, we are still being influenced by Europe, as people still tend to see European ideals as greater or more moral than their own ideals. And this is a cause. This is caused by a simple. This is a remnant of colonialism. You can see this happening even in India, for example, in really big proportions in India. So many people, when they see a white person, they see him as some kind of great or superior being. That is the remnants of colonialism, and this mentality exists in many colonized, I meant, let's say, ex-colonized peoples. They have the same mentality, and they, for the same reason, they look at the ideals as superior too. But as always, we need to explain why it isn't superior. And the explanation is quite simple. The explanation is these ideals are created by men, men just like you and me. So, what happens? These man made ideals are not perfect. Imperfect ideals can never be as good or greater than perfect ideals. And perfect ideals are Islamic ideals. Why? Because of their divine origins. Inshallah, I will go more deeply into the moral aspects and this aspect in another lecture where I discuss morality in depth. So, yes, that should explain what modernism is and what it has done to the Muslim world. Or, no, I haven't gotten there yet. So, what has it done to the Muslim world? It has made people adore something that they're not a part of, and they will never be a part of it. They are attempting to impose a new set of rules into a society which is oriented towards a pre-existent set of perfect rules. I'm not denying that many societies have imperfections and really bad qualities. For example, honor killings. This is a problem that we can see in some parts of the world. And this is not part of the uh, perfect morality that Islam espouses. So, what is our duty? We get rid of them. But we don't get rid of them through adopting foreign ideals which are imperfect. We get rid of them through adopting the perfect ideals we started out with. That is the mistake many Muslims make. And many Muslims are deceived and they are led to think of Sharia as some primitive and backwards set of laws. And in doing that, they are basically doing kufr or disbelief in Islam, because Sharia is derived from the words of Allah in the Quran and the teachings of the Prophet ﷺ in the Sunnah. So the Sharia is as perfect as it gets. So disbelieving in it is equivalent to disbelieving in the Quran and Sunnah. And this must be made clear to all the Muslims. So moving forward, I think we have done most of modernism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I interrupt you here a little bit?
Yes, of course.
I want to say why Muslims are adopting these ideals. As you said, it was colonization at first, but there are places that were colonized but that still have these ideals, such as Turkey, which can be considered as a colonized nation, but in modern or considered terms, they are not colonized. Why do they have these ideals? Because ideas like secularism, gender equality, racial equality, freedom of speech, these things are basically sugar coated and they're not the reality. These ideals and their names do not collide within themselves. If these ideals were done to their definition, then there wouldn't be a problem with them. Because gender equality is nice. Everyone can agree with that.
Yep.
Yeah, everyone can have their own religion. Everyone can get behind it as well. Freedom of speech is great. Everyone can be behind it as well. But liberals and modernists don't use these aspects to their definition. They still want to shut people that they don't agree with. So they already brought freedom of speech. They don't want Muslims to be able to wear niqab, for example. They already broke their secularism. They want for example, they want women to be empowered. They broke the gender equality. They keep barging about racial equality. Meanwhile, their own police is killing black people. How can you do things like this and still consider yourself as a modernist or a liberal? Their ideals are corrupt, and their definitions are not being followed by them themselves.
That's the problem. It's basically just hypocrisy. They claim they fight for freedom, all kinds of freedom. Whereas you can see liberal nations are, modern nations are putting restrictions on these freedom. This is actually going more into liberalism, actually. So yeah, we should start off with liberalism and continue with this. What do you think, Mehmed?
Yeah, sure. Do you want to go to its roots?
What?
Do you want to go to liberalism and its roots at first, like its history?
Yeah. Let's go through that.
Yeah, as most of you know, it started with the American Revolution and later on the French Revolution. The American Revolution, again, we see the idea of colonialism back at it again, as you said. Americans wanted to be equal with the British, which is a good desire. I completely agree with that. Every people that are under the banner should be treated equally. But their mistake is that they wanted everyone to be equal. Of course, everyone should be equal, but they didn't follow their own moral codes, as we can get later into the French Revolution, which is not the same, but has the same core principles as that. French revolutionaries, such as Robespierre, wanted to kill the monarchs, as we can say. They wanted the people to rule the land because they are the ones producing the products and they are the ones making the country run. Then why shouldn't they be the ones in charge? Of course, this idea sounds very great when you look at it as all of the other ideas they have. But as soon as revolutionaries got to power, they divided and started shutting other people down. They started killing people that supported the monarchism, which is completely against the idea of freedom of speech or freedom of
Mm-hmm.
expressing your ideals. Even in its
Yeah,
roots, they wanted to shut people, and basically they are no different from the monarchs they overthrew.
precisely.
That's why Robespierre got guillotined as well. They were the same, and
Mm-hmm.
some other revolutionaries came in, and everything led to Napoleon. And basically, we returned to an emperor or a monarch, we can say, because they
Yeah.
couldn't diverge from the idea of a great idea that's like they still have an idea, and people who don't agree with that
Mm-hmm.
idea are wrong or should be killed, in their opinion. So basically, they are the
Mm-hmm.
exact same people and nothing has changed basically. They just sugarcoated the idea of they started worshiping a idea rather than worshiping a man, which was their king
Precisely.
or queens, we
Yeah.
can say. This is where they're
Yeah.
wrong. If their ideals were perfectly implemented in their roots, I don't think there is anything wrong with freedom of religion or freedom of speech.
Mm-hmm. But
Yeah.
as I like to say, yeah. So going with liberalism, its roots, as Mehmed explained, are in the revolutions, and it by definition is the set of rules or moral rules, one can say, a liberal follows. Now, yeah, this set of rules include freedom of speech, freedom of religion, but you can see a lot of hypocrisy in the implementation of these rules. For example, they like to repeat the word freedom a lot, but you can see niqab and hijab being banned in many public institutions. You can see in liberal countries. Now, I don't think that's really hard to miss for anybody else. So, starting off, we can see liberal countries contradicting their own laws. That already shows that these countries uh, didn't put liberalism as a set of rules for the sake of human freedom or anything like that. They did it to make their own country greater. And so moving forward, you can see liberalism is a set of rules and morals, just like anything else. Liberalism isn't something that's universal. Liberalism is a set of rules. It was followed by a specific set of people. It wasn't followed by everyone. Liberalism and the ideas it preaches, it was never universal. In fact, it didn't exist before the revolutions. And this is that's exactly the same as nationalism and modernism. It's all part of one big package that was shipped throughout the world, and everyone accepted it because they had no other choice. Because if they don't accept it, they get sanctioned or they get what do they call peacekeeping military intervention. Yeah, that's what happens if they don't accept the package. So basically, everyone was forced to accept it. And now we are stuck with people who think that liberalism as a set of rules is a universal idea. But no, it is not universal. Liberalism and the rules it espouses, it's actually created by a set of people and it has always been followed by a set of people. And in no way has it ever been universal. Nobody in the past ever thought that women should have the freedom to show off as much skin as they want. Everyone followed a set of, no, not everyone, most people followed a set of clothing. Like they wore clothing. Even Europe, you can see most of the women covered their hair in a fashion that would have been forbidden in modern day Europe. In the Middle East, obviously, as the same as today, most people followed the Islamic rules on clothing. And in the rest of the world, the same thing. Most people dressed modestly unless they didn't have the resources to extensively spend on dressing. For
Even
example, some African tribes or
yeah.
something. Yeah,
Even in places like China and Japan, where Islamic ideas couldn't spread that far to those lands,
yeah,
they still were wearing modesty and they
yeah,
cared about honor, as we can say.
precisely.
Uh,
So these liberal ideas, but they were never universal. So liberals like to make the claim that this is human rights, this is freedom. Now, freedom isn't a definition that is set in stone. Freedom can be defined in any way. Same with human rights. There is no set in stone definition. That's what the liberals and the modernists do. They keep their definition on the table and they say this is the only definition that this word can have. Now, that is obviously, as we all know, wrong. Why? for the same reason why modernism as a definition is wrong, because it is imperfect. It is made by imperfect men, and the ideals are imperfect, and the testament to that is the constant change in ideals. So yeah, you can see liberalism is taking basically the same course as modernism, but it goes far deeper. It establishes a big moral system where people, the society, a liberal society, is founded on individuals. It is not founded on a family or a group of people. It is founded on the individual himself. The liberal society believes that giving a person his individual freedoms will create a functioning society. Now we can see why this kind of society is actually really detrimental. But inshallah, that's a different topic. Inshallah, I will go over this when we are comparing the Islamic society to liberal and modern societies. This is actually Daniel Hakikatjo actually goes into this in really good detail, and inshallah I should link his videos in the description, and they're really informative, and anybody who is interested in these should watch it. So moving forward, you can
I add
see.
a little bit of stuff here?
Yeah.
As you said, the liberal society is based on the rights of an individual, but
Yeah.
they are not. They don't have the solution to this. What if one individual's rights collide with another one's
Precisely.
rights, as we can say? A man has a right to not see naked women on the street because that makes him have urges, as we can say. But a woman also has the right to be naked, as we can say. Then who is right in this situation? Both of them have their right to do that.
And
This
she
is why
also has the right to not get raped.
Yes.
And
Also,
she by doing this is bringing it upon herself, actually.
yeah, can we add this too as well? Of liberal societies or where liberalism rises, usually have cult of personality, as we can say. Of course, in the French Revolution, it was Robespierre and his ideals. Do you know the extent that they went to in the French Revolution? They made a religion about the man himself, and they were praying to him.
Yeah.
This can be also seen in Turkey, as we can also add the recent news happening in Turkey about liberalism and the ideals of that. We should talk about that in the end of the video as well.
Yeah.
For example, Atatürk, these ideals on Turkey were imposed because of his personality, for example, wearing European style hat, we can say. This is basically every liberal society is actually a cult of personality, I would like to say.
Precisely, yeah. That's an excellent description. So these liberal societies, they attempt to build a society based on freedom for the individual. Now, as I always like to say, complete freedom can never be achieved, and the more freedom you give, the more chaos it creates. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I agree completely.
The more freedom, yeah,
can never be achieved because the day the man was born, he lost his freedom because there were other individuals, and the existence of other individuals basically undermines his rights because a man doesn't have a right to kill another person because there are other people. Basically, if in order for ultimate freedom and the greatest form of freedom, there needs to be nobody in the world. There needs to be just one person that has every single right to do everything. That's how you can achieve absolute freedom, and that's, as we all know, is impossible.
That is impossible. That is, the more freedom you give someone, the more chaos it creates. Now, does a man have the freedom to cheat on his wife? In a liberal society, yes. Now, what happens to the family? The family gets destroyed. And that's how you can see so many depressed people due to this destruction of the family structure. This was also went into depth by Daniel Hakikatjo. It was actually really eye-opening for me to listen to him speak about this. Inshallah, we should link the video to this, and where he speaks about this in depth, the societal differences. So moving forward, liberalism, as we can see, it's a flawed system, and it's being imposed on the world, and it is being championed as a perfect system. Now think about it. You see on TV and everywhere that free is good, being like giving freedom. But as Mehmed said, the more freedom you have, the more chaotic it gets and the more subjected to harm you get. because other people have as much freedom as you do. So that's the problem with liberalism. It applies a definition on freedom and it applies a definition on human rights. And these definitions are faulty, but they don't care. They champion it as the sole application for these definitions, and they throw it into the faces of every single country out there. And that is what creates the modern day world where so many are disoriented because their upbringing was based on a different structure, but they're forced to accept a new structure that is championed as the only structure. That is the crisis the Muslim world is going through. People think it is acceptable to be a liberal. No, being a liberal means you accept that your set of rules is greater than all others. So that's why you cannot be a liberal and be a Muslim at the same time. Because being a Muslim entails that you accept that your own set of perfect rules are greater than everything else. So that's where the problem with liberalism comes in, with the Muslim world. People think because it's so normalized, because it's so championed as the only definition, people accept it as normal. And they call themselves liberals. They call themselves modernists. They think it's normal. But
Yeah,
no,
they
it
don't
isn't.
think a
Yeah.
second time about it, how it may collide with Islam, and it may even be kuffar, as we can say.
Precisely. Like the problem with the collision, this creates an entirely new problem in Islamic scholarship. Actually, this collision. What do many people? You know what they do? They use these liberal ideas and they mend Islam. They mend the Sharia to match these liberal ideas. Now, what are we doing? We are doing something even worse than kufr. We are doing bid'ah. We are changing the religion of Allah. We are changing the religion of Allah, the perfect set of laws. What are we changing it for? Think for a second. What are we changing this perfect set of laws for?
For
We are
some stupid
changing
rules made by men with power, white
precisely.
men, for example, like we can
Yeah,
say.
we are changing a perfect set of laws for the sake of an imperfect set of laws. Now, if that isn't logically, uh, what do you say, stupid? Stupid is the exact word for this. What else could it be? So this is the problem with all these ideologies, actually, nationalism, liberalism, modernism. It's the problem with all of these. But liberalism, it's far more reaching than modernism and nationalism because it is accepted as the norm. People need to realize this isn't the norm. This was imposed on you and your grandfather. This is not what you are supposed to be following. You have something greater to follow, something perfect. And
Yeah,
yeah, over here I should add, whenever you're debating an atheist, this is a tip. They try to attack Islam based on their liberal or modernist viewpoints. What do? You don't defend Islam based on their viewpoints. You get to the point. You cut to the chase. You tell them what makes the liberal ideas or the ideas you hold greater than the Quranic ideas. Then you get to the real argument. That is the argument whether the Islam or and the Quran are from Allah or not.
yeah. Even more the deeper than that, you don't
Yeah.
have they shouldn't you shouldn't debate on whether Islam is the religion of God or not. At first, you
Mm.
have to debate that is God real or not. If the person is an atheist,
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So
the
yeah, moving
Islamic
forward.
part comes in later.
Mm.
Let's move on to
Yes.
feminism.
Yeah, I think that's it for liberalism.
Yeah,
So yeah, we're moving on to feminism. Feminism, actually, let's begin with the definition of feminism. Just pull it up. Yes, so feminism is the advocacy of women's rights on the ground and the equality of the sexes. Once again, we see something different with the definition. The definition itself is faulty. Why? For the same reason the definition of liberalism was faulty. They are championing that feministic ideals are the only way to achieve women's rights. That is faulty. Why? Because throughout history, there have been many other different ways to achieve women's rights. Now, the second part, equality of the sexes. That we can basically refute in a few sentences. The sexes are not the same. Anything that isn't the same can never be equal. They can,
Definition of equal applies here. Equal means the same.
yeah,
For example,
yeah,
of course, as the societal setting, they are equal. We can like
mm.
for an,
as
it depends
as
on your
human
definition
beings.
of equality.
Yeah,
Yes, of course,
yeah,
they're all human beings and thus
mm.
equal in a society, but they are not the
Mm-hmm.
same. They don't have the same roles because they are
Yeah,
different. How can you
they,
expect a plumber and the electrician to be same? They have different roles.
precisely. The thing is, both men and women, they are designed, or let's say they have the abilities to do specific tasks, and they are designed to do specific tasks. For example, can a mother take care of the child better than the father? Yes, she can. I'm not saying the father can't take care of the child at all, but can the mother do it better than the father? Yes. Why? Because she has the ability to do it. For example, she can breastfeed the child, whereas the father cannot. Now, and she can nurture the child far better than the father ever can, because she can realize when it's time for the child to have food, or to when he's thirsty. So it's really clear that both the sexes, they have specific roles based on their natural dispositions. Now, what feminism advocates is the disregard, the complete disregard for this natural disposition, and the complete disregard for this natural differences, and to forcefully unite it. That's like, as Mehmed said, it's trying to make an electrician do plumbing and a plumber do electricity works. And it never works out, and it's a disastrous way to get things done. So, what's the problem? Why can't men and women be equal in the feminist sense? What does Islam say on this? Islam doesn't advocate for equality in its as feminist definition. It advocates for equality in the Islamic definition, but more so, it advocates for what's the other definition for it? There's another word. Equity. Yes, it advocates for equity. Equity is the treating, like, you give each person the roles based on their natural disposition. And that is a far more logical thing to do than equality. Equity is greater than equality when talking about the sexes, because they are clearly different. Now, feminism, it has really interesting beginnings, and we should go over it when discussing its beginnings now. So, how did feminism come into existence? Now, normally, what you would learn is you would learn it's from the first wave feminism. The first wave, where it started in France with white women wanting the same, or no, in America, right? Basically, in the European regions, where white women wanted the same rights as man, for example, to vote. Now, how did feminism begin? Actually, before this, it began far before this. The real feminism, it wasn't created by white women. It wasn't created by women at all. It was created by imperialists and colonizers who wanted a justification to invade and colonize the people. There is actually a really interesting lecture by the Muslim skeptic on this topic, feminism, and it's really informative. You should watch that, inshallah. We'll link that too. So, these white imperialists, they created this ideology, that this idea that white women are superior and greater than brown women or black women or any other woman in the world. They created this ideology. White people, like these imperialists like Lord Cromer or Journey Bentham, these people, they created this idea, the differentiation between European women and quote unquote savages. Now we can see already. Now we can see the origins of this idea. Where is it coming from? It's certainly not a universal idea. Why isn't it a universal idea? For the same reason why liberalism or modernism isn't a universal idea. For the simple reason that it never existed before a specific point of time. That's why feminism, and also feminism, is ever changing. In the first wave feminism, feminists fought for votes and voting rights. But now feminists fight for what they fight against hijab, they fight against niqab, they fight against all sorts of things, a huge plethora of things. They fight against what do you say? Do you have an example, Mehmed? There's so many.
Yeah, they also fight for LGBT people, as we can say.
Yeah, LGBTQ.
That also comes in feminism. They defend their rights as well.
Yeah. So there's so many things they fight for. And this didn't exist. This actually didn't exist in the... They also fight against racism today. This didn't exist in the first feminists. Actually, the first feminists were really quite the opposite. For example, Elizabeth Cady Starter said, "What will we and our daughters suffer if these degraded black men are allowed to have the rights that would make them even worse than our Saxon fathers?" Now, if you tell me this isn't speaking about, what do you say, the modern day feminists' ideas, this is completely and blatantly racist. This woman is calling these black people degraded, and she is saying that she is more entitled to rights than they are. So we can see feminism already has a really, really corrupt, or how do you say, malformed beginning, and it is ever changing, which only points to one single fact: the ideology is imperfect. Why is it imperfect? It's always changing. If it was perfect, it would never need to change. That is a simple logical deduction. A 5-year-old can understand this. So you might ask me, why is Islam perfect then? I mean, if we apply this logic there, we can say Islam is perfect because it has never changed. Unlike some people are trying to change it, it has never changed to the core. But that's, of course, not the only reason why it's perfect. The reason why it's perfect is because of its divine origins, but that's a different discussion. So yeah, we can see feminism really brutal beginnings, starting off as imperial justifications for attacking other societies, labeling them as inferior, and attacking these people and colonizing them. Then we have first wave feminists who are fighting for voting rights, but they're incredibly racist at the same time. Then comes the rest of feminist history. And we have feminists today, some of whom famously say that all men should die and females can reproduce without men. I'm pretty sure you've heard of that, Mehmed.
Yeah, can I talk a little bit here?
Yeah, sure.
A lot of feminists say that they want to stop raping of women. Of course, everyone wants to stop that. It's not just feminists. But they have a certain way of saying, teach men to not rape rather than teach women to wear modestly. They keep saying, teach men, teach men, teach men.
Yeah.
Don't they realize we're already teaching them to not look at women, not to talk with women? They're not.
Yeah, precisely.
That's not their life. To not get closer to them or be in alone rooms with them, because that might lead to stuff happening. These feminists are trying to change people's biology, which is impossible. Biology can't be changed. We are just humans. After all. We are not gods, as we can say.
Yeah.
We don't have the power to change biology. We can't stop men from having urges, but we can stop rapes from happening by telling women to wear modestly. And we can say clothing can be changed. Biology can't. As I have to clarify, I'm not defending rapists in no manner, shape, or form.
Of course.
They should die, as the law
Islamic law.
If they are married, and if they're not, I think they get whipped,
lashed. Yeah.
So they are really bad people, and I never want to defend them. I don't defend them, but if women wear modesty clothes and they wear niqab or hijab, men can have desires for those kind of people, because rape don't often happen by one single impulse. A man gets I can say addicted to a certain woman, and like he sees it when he's going to work, for example. He sees her every day. But if she was wearing niqab, how could he know that that's the woman she's looking for?
Yeah, let's go into that. There's a really interesting thing about Islamic. That is, rape was never a problem in the early Islamic societies, like the Rashidun Khalifa and the Ottomans, for example. Because why? There were never definitive rules set down by the Sharia exclusively for rapists. The punishment for rape is derived from the punishment for adultery. Now, why is that? Why? Because rape didn't exist in Islamic societies. Now, what other explanation can be given for this except that Islamic society somehow ingeniously prevents such a common occurrence in modern day liberal societies? Now, how would they do that? In the same way, many feminists claim is oppressive and backwards and primitive. Well, guess what? This quote unquote backwards and primitive method of preventing such a horrible crime works far better than feminism has ever worked. This idea of covering a woman, preventing the desire to light in a man's heart, because it's part of biology, as Mehmed said. This idea basically eradicated the problem in in Islamic societies of the early age. Nowadays, people might take statistics of Saudi Arabia, for example, and show it to you, saying, "Look, women there wear niqab, but they're still getting raped." Well, guess what? Saudi Arabia is getting influenced by liberal ideas, just like everyone else. So that isn't exactly a great idea, a great argument you're making there. So this crime was so uncommon, so what do you say, so extinct, and it came into existence back in the Islamic world due to the surge of liberal ideas. It already tells you there's something so perfect about Islamic law that it can basically eradicate this crime. And that already shows how efficient the niqab and the hijab are at preventing such a horrible crime. And you may claim that it's oppressive, but hey, you can change your clothes and be happy rather than go out naked and be sorry afterwards. And that's far better for a woman, because rape completely scars her for life. Anyways, so yeah, that's how feminism is failing, because it's applying an imperfect set of laws, an imperfect ideology to try and combat real problems. Let me put it in a simple way. They're applying fairy tale solutions to real problems. They're saying if women are free, men just suddenly stop having the urge for women, and they just it disappears. Men don't have the urge to reproduce anymore. They stop being living beings, because reproduction is actually a part of being a living being. They stop being living beings, and women can dress however they want. This is a fairy tale. This is not real. It will never happen. So they are applying these fairy tale solutions, quote unquote, to real problems like rape. And that is why feminism is a faulty and failing system. That's why rape still exists in liberal societies. But actually throughout the world. Yeah, I think that should finish off feminism, if I didn't miss anything.
Yeah.
Did I miss anything? Yeah, what did I miss?
Oh, you didn't miss any. Yeah.
All right.
We can talk about LGBT as well a little bit.
Yeah, LGBTQ. Now, LGBTQ is basically in the same place as liberalism. There's this thing, as I said, freedom. Too much freedom is chaos.
Yes.
Now, people are saying people should have the right to sleep with the same sex. They should have the right to do so. Should have the right to be gay.
Are
They should have
biology.
Precisely. Yeah, let me get to that. Let me get to the main faults in this. It's really contradictory, this. So they're saying two people who love each other, no matter how they are, they should be able to sleep with each other. Now, one simple question for the LGBTQ. Can a 5-year-old girl who loves her 60-year-old let's say boyfriend, sleep with each other? And you can see a heavy contradiction when they say no, it's horrible. Why? It completely aligns with your idea that those who love each other should be able to love each other. Why can a 5-year-old girl not love a 60-year-old man? That's the contradiction in their ideology. They contradict their own ideology.
An answer for that. They always say because kids can consent, but who are they to decide who can consent? consent and who can't.
Yeah.
For example,
What if the girl consents?
they say kids can't consent because they are
How do
kids.
you know?
Kids are stupid. As everyone can agree on that. Kids are stupid. But
Yeah.
I am underage. I am 15-year-old, and this is age reveal. But I do see myself as capable for consenting because I'm not stupid.
Yeah. So
I have my own ideas, and I can decide if something is good or if something is bad.
And a 5-year-old girl can say the same thing, and she can.
Yeah. We are not.
And a 5-year-old girl can say the same thing. A 5-year-old girl can say the same thing, and they would still stop her. Now, aren't you infringing on that girl's rights? Yeah.
Yeah. Just clarify again, we're not defending pedophilia in no way, shape, or form. We are not defending these people, or as the map, we can say map.
Pedophilia is forbidden in Islam.
Yes, it is. But you
just
can
like
see
every other kinds of
they
LGBTQ.
will, if any atheist or enemies of Islam hear this, they will immediately go to Aisha, as we all know.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, but what they overlook,
an adult is considered a teenager is considered an adult in Islam, as it should be, because someone who can reproduce on their own have urges. And since getting your urges off by yourself is a wrongdoing and is not okay, someone will be able to marry because you need to get your urges out as a teenager. Everyone feels that. That's why a lot of teenagers are addicted to that good stuff. We can say, let's not get demonetized here.
Yeah. So pedophilia, like I mean, for Aisha was literally fighting in battles. Now, which 9-year-old girl fights in battles? Like what they're doing, they're comparing 9-year-old girls of today to 9-year-old girls from in 1600, like 600 AD.
Yeah.
The woman then had really low life expectancy, especially in the Arabian Peninsula, because of
really get killed.
How harsh it is. Yeah, it's because of how harsh the environment is. Now, it is a biological phenomena that an organism, when subjected to harsh conditions, it adapts to equally, like to combat this harsh condition and to try and survive. That's why you see people mature very earlier in those times. That's simply biology. This is what you learn at school. It's called natural adaptation of organisms to their environment. So girls back then, they matured far earlier. You can see Aisha wasn't the only person who was married at that age. There were so many, and she never. There's also one thing to note. She narrated over 1,000 reports, hadith from the Prophet ﷺ, and never, not a single time, did she claim to be oppressed. Now, that puts the claim that feminist ideas are universal to the question here. Now, how can someone who was married off at such a young age not be oppressed? The feminists are saying, no, this is clear oppression. But she never claimed to be oppressed, even though she lived long after the Prophet died.
Actually.
Yeah?
In fact, quite the opposite. She always said that she loved Prophet Muhammad very much.
She said she loved the Prophet Muhammad very much. And they're claiming, no, she was oppressed. How is this possible? She is saying she loved them. So that's where the contradiction comes in. You claim to be advocating for freedom. And then at the same time, this is actually a refutation for liberals, who actually, most of them are feminists too. At the same time, you're forbidding things like pedophilia or incest, for example. Incest is forbidden in many countries today, I think. Liberal countries, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why can't an adult brother and sister get legally
they both
married?
Can consent.
They can consent. They can consent. Yeah. Why can't they get married legally? Why can't they sleep with each other?
They will say that if they have a children, the children will probably have disorders, as you know.
Yeah, that's an easy excuse to get out of it.
If they don't have a child, then why is it wrong?
Yeah, that's the thing.
Argument against it, because to its core, it's the same as gay relationships, as we can say.
Yeah. Gay relationships, there's another interesting thing to note about homosexuality. You see so many STDs, sexually transmitted diseases, that never existed before in the world, rising today, and they're so prevalent in homosexual communities. Now, I remember someone debating, they told me that this is not a problem because using condoms, they can avoid that. Well, see, if you're using, what do you say, harm as a method for judging something morally wrong, if something even causes harm, why would you even go for it? And don't get me wrong, basically everything causes harm. This is actually a really faulty system. I'm not using my own ideas here. So anything has a chance for a disease, even normal marriages. But homosexual marriages has such a heightened chance for this, and it is such a danger to society because once you get AIDS or HIV, you basically, I don't think you can recover. It's a life-threatening disease, and where is it coming from? It's coming from people being given the freedom to sleep with whoever they want. And
Yes.
tell me, how can that not be wrong? You say harming people is wrong. Now, because of these people, so many diseases are coming. Now, how can you say that these people should be given the freedom to do this? Now, I'm not rejecting that homosexuality may be a natural urge.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it can be a natural urge that where a man cannot love to fall into love with another man. It can be a natural urge. I don't reject. But isn't rape a natural urge too?
Yes.
Doesn't a man have the natural urge to rape someone? Does it being a natural urge make it right? No, it doesn't. So what happens? You fight that urge. You go against that urge because you need to know it's wrong. And you won't know when you follow an imperfect moral system. That's why you should look at a perfect one like Islam. But of course, if you're not a Muslim, you need to learn about Islam first.
Yeah.
But yeah, so using your imperfect morality to say Islam is homophobic, Islam is hating gays, this is so unfair. You're using an imperfect moral system to attack a perfect moral system that actually caters for the healthy functioning of society. And you can see that where Muslim societies have never had a problem with STDs, basically. And that already shows which society is more efficient.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that should be it for LGBTQ.
Yeah, let's talk a little about the recent news in Turkey.
Yeah.
You might not know this, but as the opening with Hagia Sophia, a newspaper, I think, or like a magazine posted a cover saying, "We got Hagia Sophia, and next we will have the Caliphate and Sharia back." This caused a lot of backlash.
Inshallah.
A lot of people, yeah, inshallah. A lot of people want the guy who made this cover to be arrested.
MashaAllah.
Once again, this shows what's wrong with liberal societies. Why arrest a guy who's expressing his opinions?
Precisely. The same thing. Let's just go briefly over democracy. Why cannot democratic countries allow Nazi parties to take part in the voting system? Isn't Nazism or fascism an opinion? An opinion the people should have the right to vote for? No, but they still ban it. That's a contradiction they have. Why can a Muslim country not choose to be ruled by a khilafah or a Muslim society? Why can a Muslim country not choose to be ruled by Sharia? Why? Doesn't liberalism say that anybody should they want? No, they won't allow it. Another contradiction. Liberalism is filled with contradictions like this. Actually, all of these ideologies, and it's a shame seeing so many brothers and sisters in our Muslim world falling for these ideas, these flawed ideas, and they sacrifice Islam for something so flawed. Liberalism is basically the gateway out of Islam, because so many people who become liberal and Muslim, quote unquote, they go out of Islam. Why? Because when they first became liberal, they wouldn't have known contradictions the liberal system has with the Islamic system. This is the danger this poses to the Islamic world. They don't know this contradicts Islam. So when they are shown that Islam actually contradicts the liberal system so heavily, Islam restricts freedom, just like everyone else. Islam finds a perfect balance in freedom where you can have complete order and have freedom at the same time.
Yes.
Whereas liberal system gives you freedom at the expense of order and a proper functioning society. But people don't understand this. When they become liberal, they get in for the sugar-coated sayings. They're like liberalism, freedom, equality. It's like you know the popular French Revolutionary equality, human rights, and freedom. This is what they hear when they go into liberalism. When they go in there, they find these contradictions with Islam. What do they think? They think of this quote: equality, human rights, and freedom. They're not thinking about how flexible the definitions are. They think of liberalism applying to these definitions, and they think Islam is going against human rights, equality, and freedom. And that is the big, big mistake. That is what the liberals achieve by forcing their definition of human rights onto the word human rights itself.
Yeah, let's just.
And that is the crisis.
Close to you, bro. Let's not make the video an hour.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the crisis the Muslim world faces. And this is why people need to understand that this is wrong. Liberalism is wrong. It's a flawed system. It's not a perfect system. It doesn't advocate for human rights, equality, or women's rights. What actually advocates for those is Islam. Islam advocates for those far better than any man-made system ever can. Anyway, I think we should end it there. Anyways, thank you.
Signal one of them. Do it now, okay? Do it. I will personally steal your 2006 Honda Civic if you don't subscribe.
All right. Thank you for watching, everybody. Inshallah, I'll post another video soon. All right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa